Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Session 4 of the CAS Virtual Conference, Closing the Digital Divide, Access, Instruction, and Equity. My name is Rosie O'Brien-Voitek, and I'm the Assistant Executive Director at the Connecticut Association of Schools. We hope you've been enjoying our CAS Virtual Conference. Some truly awesome speakers today, and we have 2 more great sessions for you this afternoon. If you haven't already registered, it isn't too late to register for our final session to hear our 2020 Principals of the Year discuss access, instruction, and equity from their perspectives. Begins at 3 p.m. and you can check the CAS website for the registration, or we will drop it into the chat so that you have that. Also, just to let you know, this session will be recorded and posted on the CAS website, so you can view it later and share it with your colleagues and as well as your faculty and staff. Please use the chat feature as a way to stay actively engaged in the learning during this session, and let us know if you have any technical issues, as we will be monitoring the chat. In addition, we will be monitoring the question and answer feature, and we'll try to answer as many of your questions as we can during the session. It's now my pleasure to introduce Josh Ratliff, our speaker for this session on best practices for technology integration. Josh is a professional learning specialist with Trinity III Technology. He's a lifelong learner, teacher, and administrator who has dedicated his career to building capacity among educators on the topics of technology integration and digital citizenship. He's a Google for Education certified trainer and former coordinator of technology integration and support with the West Virginia Department of Education. I haven't had the pleasure to meet Josh in person, but I can tell you after Zooming with him that he's a very high energy person filled with a passion and enthusiasm for using technology in useful and purposeful ways to foster meaningful learning experiences and transform teaching and learning. On behalf of CAS, we want to thank Trinity III for their partnership in supporting this session at our virtual conference. It's now my pleasure to introduce and welcome Josh Ratliff. Take it away, Josh.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I am thrilled to death to have the opportunity to be with you guys. I've been with you all day. I started my morning with you, and I was so inspired by Dr. Fisher and your state superintendent of schools. I think you call them the commissioner. We call it the superintendent here. I'm in West Virginia, so that country boy accent that you hear, that's the West Virginia in me coming out. I'm going to do the best I can because I know sometimes that accent can get in the way, but I've been studying along with you guys all day long. I'm so inspired. I cannot wait to get in and share some of the ideas that I have with you guys. I want to tell you a little bit about Trinity, but for the sake of time, I'm concerned about the amount of material that I want to cover. And if it's okay with you guys, I think I just want to jump straight into the meat of the presentation, and then we'll save a few minutes at the end to kind of share a little bit about Trinity III and the services that we provide. What I want to talk about today is best practices for technology integration. And the basic idea here is that not every single learning experience that we do that involves technology has technology with this. The technology is not always carrying the same weight, right? It doesn't always bring the same value of to a given learning experience. And there's a model that we can use that helps provide a framework or some definitions around the value of the technology in a given learning experience. And that model is called SAMR. So we're going to spend some time in the session talking about SAMR. With that being said, the SAMR model is not complicated, right? It's something that we could probably teach in 5 or 6 minutes. Applying it and use it effectively, that's a different story. That takes a little bit of practice, but just understanding the SAMR model doesn't take long. So we have a few minutes that we can kind of back up just a little bit and kind of reinforce some of the same concepts that you may have heard throughout the day in other sessions. And to do that, I wanted to start talking a little bit about growth mindset. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that are going to help set the stage for our time together and probably help set the stage for the experiences that we're going to see during the school year. And if you're not familiar with growth mindset, don't worry about it. We're going to start at the beginning, and I'm going to explain this a little bit from kind of a foundational perspective. The basic school of thought says this: we have two mindsets that we can find ourselves in. One is a fixed mindset and one is a growth mindset. And I'm going to show you some statements that kind of align to both. And we're going to use the chat feature to interact with each other here. Now, before I show you these statements, I want to first say I am going to ask for your grace as we do this, because I'm going to show you some things and maybe show some statements up here that might feel like they sting a little bit, right? It might, you might say, ouch, Josh, you're stepping on my toes there. Be careful. And I'm not here to offend anybody. I'm hoping that by what we look at together, that you won't be offended by this, but instead be motivated to think differently about some things. So let's look at a few statements centered on fixed mindset. Have you ever said things like this? Look at number one. There are just some things I'm not good at. I'm a math teacher by trade, and it was so common for me to have students, you know, they'd come into my high school math class and they'd say, well, Mr. Ratliff, I'm sorry, I'm just not very good at math. And I'd say, I get it. I understand math is not everyone's thing, but you can learn, like you can do this. But that sometimes our ideas or our philosophy is that we're just not good at it. And Rosie and I were talking before, and we were planning the session that we were going to do, and we were talking about it being virtual and all this stuff. And I was typing my email, and I said, you know, there's just, you know, sometimes when it comes to webinars and doing virtual instruction, I really struggle. I'm just not very good at that. And blah, 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 blah. And I hit send. And I thought, man, I wish I could just reach out in the cyberspace and grab that sentence and just take it right back. Because that sentence represents that fixed mindset that I sometimes struggle with. So I want you to use the chat area right now and look at these statements 1 through 5 and go into the chat area. And if you've said something like this week, type the number. Did you say something like, look at number 4. I feel good when I can do something that others can't do. Have you said something like that? So go into the chat area right now and type in the number of a statement that you've said something like that this week. I want to hear from you guys and hear what areas of fixed mindset. Yep. I say, let's see what comes in here. Anybody else? Rosie sometimes struggles with that too. Yep, a lot of people struggling with the first one. I know, you know, with me doing a lot with teachers right now, doing a lot of training, I hear a lot of teachers say, Josh, I'm just not good at technology. I should have retired 3 years ago. Technology's not my thing. I'm just not very good at it. And if you say that, listen, I'm not mad at you. I'm not being critical of you. I'm just saying that's your fixed mindset coming to life. Good. A lot of people will say that first one's a hard one. Let's look at the growth mindset. So, I've been having trouble with my slides hanging up. Let's see. I'm going to have to go back. Be patient with me. Okay, growth mindset. You might say things like this. Look at number 2. I enjoy getting out of my comfort zone. I'm going to just stop and pause there for a minute, right? I enjoy getting out of my, that's the mantra for the 2020-2021 school year. We can enjoy getting out of our comfort zone, or we can hate getting out of our comfort zone. But either way, this school year, we are going to find our way to get outside of our comfort zone. So look at these statements from growth mindset and put some in the chat. Go to the chat feature right now. Which one of these statements do you identify with on the growth mindset? I tend to do, let's see, there was one. Look at number 3. This is one that really resonates with me on number 3. It says, I feel inspired by the success of others. And Rosie was joking about me being high energy, and I guess that's true. I was up till 4 in the morning last night. 4 in the morning last night, you guys, because we're doing this thing and we're writing a STEM curriculum, and I'm not going to bore you with all that, but me and my colleagues are writing a STEM curriculum, and I've seen some of their lessons that come through, and I'm so inspired. I was up till 4 in the morning typing out my STEM lesson because I'm so motivated by the inspiration that I'm gathering from my colleagues. That's good. It looks like a lot of you are kind of in that same boat. When you see something that is happening in other people, you take that as motivation. Good. Amy, I see you. Number 1 and number 3. Very good. Awesome. Well, let me tell you this story. Oh, my slides are hanging up. Let's see. No, that's what I figured. Okay, we're going to do the best we can with my slides. For some reason, they're not advancing the way I hope they would. So there's this story, and we borrowed this legend from the Cherokee tribe, and it says this. This grandfather, he decides it's time for his grandson to learn something that's special for the tribe, and so he takes his grandson out to this place, and he says, I want you to know something. There's two wolves that live on the inside, and one wolf is evil, and he represents greed and envy and anger, and he's alive on the inside, and he's fighting for you, and he wants to take possession of your heart and take possessions of your attitude and your emotions. But you have another wolf that's on the inside of you, and he's kind and he's gentle, and he represents peace and goodness and hard work and dedication. And this wolf that represents love and kindness, he's also alive on the inside of you too. And these two wolves, the good one and the bad one, they're fighting for your heart and for the hearts of all of our people. And the grandson is taken in by the story, and he says to his grandfather, well, which one of these two wolves will win the war? And his grandfather looks down at him and says, son, the one that you feed. The one that you feed is the one that will win the war. And I think about that so much when I think about my growth and my fixed mindset. And I know that I have both of these kind of warring inside for my attitudes and my dispositions on things. And I know that I'm going to do everything that I can to feed my growth mindset. And if you're wondering, Josh, what in the world does this have to do with SAMR? Hold on. I'm getting there. I want to set this up. I'm coming. So there's a book. Somebody put this in the chat. The Growth Mindset Coach. Go to Amazon or wherever you buy books. Go find a link to this Growth Mindset Coach and put it in the chat, somebody. There's a book that I have got so much encouragement. There we go. Growth Mindset Coach. Good. If we can get a link to that, that would be great. This book is a book that's written by teachers for teachers, and it follows a 12-month plan. And each month, there we go. Awesome. Thank you, Jenny. Each month we get a new mantra or a new short saying that we can rally around with our teachers and with our students and with ourselves. And I want to share just a few of these months with you to help set the stage. In August, we learned that teaching is a practice, it's not a perfection. This has been echoed by every speaker today. Every speaker today has emphasized this same concept, this same mantra. I don't know about you, but there have been a lot of times when I have found myself saying something like this. Well, I really do like that application. I like that teaching strategy, that jigsaw that I saw that teacher, that was pretty good. And I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it one of these days, but I'm going to make sure I've got it down pat before I go out there and I try to use it with kids. I'm going to make sure I really got it perfected before I get out there and try it with students. Listen, that idea, you're going to have to set that aside. Not this, there, we have too much at stake. We have too much urgency to get everything perfected and nailed down before we are willing to get out there and try it with students. I'm not saying this is an excuse to be unprepared and just get out there and wing it. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying you don't have to study and practice hard to be an effective educator. But what I am saying is, if we're waiting until we've got this idea or this technology tool or this teaching strategy pinned down exactly right before we're willing to try it, we're never going to try it, right? Let me show you a tech tool that goes with this idea. Oh boy, that's not what I wanted. Give me a second. There we go. Exit full screen. I don't want to exit full screen. Let me do this again. Flipgrid. I love this one. We've been talking about it some throughout the day. A lot of other educators have mentioned it today. Flipgrid is a good one for this mantra because if you don't know what Flipgrid is, let me just summarize this for you. What you do as a teacher is you issue a prompt to your students. You can tell them, I want you to solve this equation, or I want you to go on a scavenger hunt and look for things around the house that are a circle, And find those things and show them to the class. Find the circles around your house, and the kids go and they do the activity that you've given them a prompt for, and they've responded back to you in video form. And it's amazing because you don't have to have skills in video production and camera work and all that stuff to use Flipgrid. It's so simple. It's woven right into your tablet or into your phone or into your Chromebook or whatever it's that you're using. And it's so simple that I do Flipgrid with my kindergartner. And it's just that easy. But Flipgrid is one of those things where you don't really understand it until you've used it a few times. You got to be willing to just go out there and put out a prompt to the students and let the responses come back. And then once the responses start coming back, you get a feel for the different things that it can do, and you start to use it differently. And it really comes into focus after you've used it a couple of times. So you can't wait till you've got Flipgrid perfected. Because remember, in August, we learned that teaching is a practice. It's not a perfection. And so this is one of the tools that you might decide to get out there and use even before you've got it nailed down. Let's keep going. I am going to have a fit with my slides. Let's see. No, November. Okay, November. I'm a valued member of this learning community. I don't know about you guys, but I have had a hard time during quarantine because I have felt on so many different occasions that I'm so isolated and so disconnected from my peers and the people that I love and my colleagues, and I'm struggling to find inspiration, and I just don't sometimes I just don't feel like I'm part of a community. And in November, we really rally around this idea that I am a valued member of this learning community. And there are a couple of tech tools that we can introduce that really foster the community spirit, okay? Like Office 365, and my preference is G Suite. Although I like both products, I find myself using Google products pretty often because they are great at bringing in community, and we can do Teams meetings, and we can do Zoom, and we can do things in Google Meet, and we can have all of our students together and really celebrate that togetherness. And then we can use shared documents in Office 365 or in G Suite to allow students to be able to collaborate on things even when they're at a distance. My favorite one is December. And I know I'm a teacher, I'm not supposed to have favorites, I get it, but I just can't help it. We love a challenge in December, and I like this one probably because I struggle with it. I can't say that I identify with this one that closely, but I really love to teach it, and that's probably the reason that I'm drawn to it. I tend to teach this one with a lot of quotes. Do you remember, I don't have this quote on there, but do you remember when Dr. King was doing the March on Washington, and he was saying, he was talking about a fierce urgency of now, because so many of the challenges that we were facing during the first civil rights movement, and there was so much going on, but there was a tendency for a lot of people to set those challenges aside and kind of look the other way and pretend that they don't exist, and maybe we'll address that tomorrow. And he's talking about the fierce urgency of now, and we cannot wait. And he says tomorrow is today. You know, we cannot wait to face these challenges. We must face them now. I gave you another one here in the slides. So remember when President Kennedy was, he's getting ready to launch to really cast off the space mission, right? And he goes to Rice Stadium, and he's trying to rally thousands of people, trying to rally their support and motivation for this. And he says this, he says, "But why, some say, go to the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may also ask, why climb the highest mountain? Or why 35 years ago did we say we want to fly across the Atlantic?" And then remember, he's at Rice Stadium, so he makes a little sports joke here, and he says, "Why does Rice play Texas? You know, why do we do these difficult things? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon and in this decade and do the other things." And this is the part that I love so much. We choose to go to the moon and in this decade and the other things, not because they're easy, but because they're hard. The very reason that we wanted to put a man on the moon is because it's hard. We wanted to show the world that we can do hard things. And listen, we're not astronauts, but we're teachers, right? And we can do hard things. Just think about this. In 5 months, what has it been, 5 months or 6 months, we have turned education upside down. in 5 months. We have, for many of us, redefined education in 5 months. All of the things that we've been doing for decades have now flipped on their head, and we have made a incredibly rapid pivot. And we've done this not because it's easy, but because we have to, because it's hard, and we're teachers and we can do hard things. I love this one. Wrapping it up. Let me show you this one from February. A goal without a plan is just a wish. I'm going to tell you a story. You can't make this stuff up. This is a real story. Cannot make this stuff up. I had a kid in class. I taught mostly algebra and geometry in algebra 2. I had this kid in class, and he wasn't going well. So you know what you do with kids. You take them out in the hallway, right? That's what we do. So I took him out in the hallway and I said, listen, I'm concerned about your effort. Smart kid. You work hard when you want to, but it's not, you know, we're not getting where we need to go right now. This is concerning for me. And I said, you know, what's going on? He gives me the usual stuff, you know, well, I got a lot going on, and you know, I'm just, you know, trying to survive, and blah blah blah. High school's hard. And then he says, and by the way, I'm not sure that I'm ever going to need this in life. I said, all right, I get it. That's a fair question. What do you want to do? Now remember, I'm a math teacher, right? I said, what do you want to do in life? He said, I want to be an engineer. And I said, all right. So I like that goal. That's a good goal. That is a good goal. I'm with you. But that goal without a plan to pass math class, that's just a wish. We're not going to get there. Not like that. So if you have that goal, and I love your goal, we're going to have a plan to get there. So there's a quote that I use for this one too. This guy asked Socrates one time, he said, Socrates, what is the best way to get to the top of Mount Olympus? And you might have seen this on the poster. If anybody's seen it, you can put it in the chat. He says, the best way to get to the top of Mount Olympus is by making sure every step you take is in the right direction. And I shared that with my student. I said, listen, I love your goal of being an engineer, but you need to make sure that every step you take is in the right direction. And if you're going to do that, you're going to have to pass this math class. That's all there is to it. And so many times, not just that student, but we do it too as teachers. We have a tendency to give up what we want most for what we want in a moment, right? Somebody put that in the chat. We give up what we want most for what we want in the moment. We do that. I can identify this one too. Sometimes in my professional career, sometimes in my personal life, I made a decision not long ago that I've been putting on weight during quarantine. I wanted to be better, and I wanted to try to get things ironed out, and I just wasn't fitting well in my clothes, and it was a mess. And I made a goal. I said, I'm gonna give up what we want most for what we want in the moment. Yes, awesome. Thank you, Jenny. Awesome. I made this decision. I was going to do better. I was gonna lose some weight. I wanted to feel good in my clothes. And then my neighbor walked in with a box of donuts, and I was 3 donuts into it before I realized I'm giving up what I want most for what I want in the moment. And those donuts are not going to take me to the top of Mount Olympus. And the reason I'm doing this now, right before we start talking about SAMR, is because we need to decide together that our goals for the school year of providing a high quality distance education and overcoming this COVID pandemic and providing quality education in spite of everything, those are great goals. I love those goals. But if those are our goals, we're going to have a plan, you all. We're going to have a plan that takes us, every single step goes in the right direction. So I want to switch gears now and talk about SAMR. If I can get my slides to advance, I'm going to lose my mind. You all pray for me. Whoops. Okay, here we go. SAMR. SAMR, like I started to mention earlier, is a model. Think of it as like depth of knowledge or Bloom's taxonomy, or think of it as like what's some others, like higher order thinking, you know, with Bloom's, you know, think of it as something like that. Excuse me, but specifically for technology. Give me a second. Specifically for technology integration, right? So this came about, I can remember I was a first or second year teacher. And back then we had this like smart boards. They're not like the TVs that you see now with the interactive displays. It was like the old, the older digital boards. And the principal came in and he did an observation. I was, teaching at the board, and I was working some problems, on the board. Had some students kind of involved, and he did an observation and he left. And afterwards I wanted to get some feedback, and I saw him in the hallway. I was like, "Hey, Coach Archer, you got a second? I want to talk about my lesson." He said, "Yeah. Well, here are a few things that I think you could work on." And he gave me some pointers, and I was encouraged by that. And I thought, yeah, that's good. I could really do that, and teach that a little more effectively and engage students a little better. He's given me some good feedback. And then he said this. He said, "But I really liked that the use of technology. That was a really good use of technology that you had there." And I said, "Man, that's good. Thank you. I appreciate that." And then I got to thinking about that later, and I thought, well, really, I was just writing problems on the board. I don't know if that was really good use of technology or not. I mean, I had a digital marker and a digital board, and I could have been using like a dry erase board, or a chalkboard and chalk, or a stone and chisel, and hieroglyphics. And I could have been doing that with a lot of tools. And so I'm not sure that was a great use of technology. And so I started looking for something that I could use to really define what that means, a good use of technology versus kind of a basic use of technology. I found the Samoan Model. So let me go through this. It looks like a ladder, right? So SAMR stands for substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. And at the substitution level, technology is a direct substitute, and it offers no functional change in our teaching experience and learning experience whatsoever. At augmentation, it's still a direct substitute, but we have functional improvement. There's some kind of functionality that's brought about with the technology tool. We normally lump those together and call that enhancement. So if it's substitution or augmentation, then the technology is used to enhance the learning experience. Going up to the next level is modification. That's where technology allows for significant task redesign. In other words, that learning experience is significantly different than what it is in a traditional setting. And the last one, the top one, that's where we have redefinition, where technology provides for a learning experience that is otherwise not possible. You just couldn't do that thing without the technology component. So let's dive into these a little bit more closely. Rosie, would you put in the chat, what time do I need to end? Is it 2:30? While you do that, I'm gonna move on. Let's talk about substitution. It's our first level. And substitution technology integration is the technology tool is a direct replacement, and it offers no functional improvement at all, right? There's no functional change. Thank you. Awesome. That one, in terms of technology integration, is hard to come by, honestly, because most technology tools do offer some functional improvement. But sometimes what I like to do, just as a thought experiment, is to imagine what kind of technology integration I might have used in the past, or I might see teachers using, that is a pure substitution. So for that one, let me offer the idea that I presented to set this scenario up. Let's say we have a whiteboard, some kind of interactive display, right? Maybe it's a new line panel or a smart board or a Promethean, maybe. I've got my digital marker and I'm just writing on it. And that's all I'm doing, right? Just writing on the board. I would call that a substitution, because that's a direct substitute for chalk or dry erase with no functional change. Augmentation. Augmentation is where we still have a direct substitute. That part hasn't changed, okay? Still a direct substitute, but this time we have some added functionality. There's some kind of functionality that happens with the technology that gives it some functional improvement. I like to do, let's stay in the same ballpark here. Let's say we're still using our interactive display, but let's reimagine that interactive display as augmentation this time. So, you know, I don't know if you guys can see, I've got this window over here that presents it's a really weird glare, only during certain times of the day, like between 10 and 2, I got a really funky glare that comes through that window. And maybe with my smartboard here, I'm going to say, for my second period and third period class, I'm going to change the background of that to a black background and use a yellow pen to write instead. Okay, that is a functional improvement, right? I'm going to maybe I'm teaching my geometry class and I want to go into the tools on the toolbar and pull out a right triangle, and I can use the shape tool to draw perfect triangles or perfect squares or circles or something like that. And I'm using some kind of functionality that I wouldn't get from a dry erase or a chalkboard, right? Those are functional improvements, and that's a way that I can use that digital display in a way that's augmentation instead of substitution. All right, let's keep going. I'm going to throw my slides out the window. That's what I'm going to do. Yep. Modification. Modification is where we have significant task redesign, right? This is where the teaching and the learning experience is significantly different than what it might be in a traditional way. Let's use our same scenario. Let's say we're on our smartboard and we're looking for a way to make that digital display modification where we teach significantly different. Somebody earlier mentioned Pear Deck, right? So maybe I've got a slide deck up there and I'm going through my slides just like I might in a traditional way, but I'm going to use Pear Deck and add some kind of interactivity so that it's not only on my big display up front, but it's also on the student's small display in their hand. I've got this here. I've got this Chrome tablet. Maybe if I use Pear Deck, I can cast that presentation down to the small displays at the student's desk, and then I can insert into my presentation little formative questions that would help me know how my students are coming along, and maybe I could reteach something, or I could move along a little quicker, more quickly if everyone is staying on track. And that would be using the smartboard, the same technology tool, mind you, but now we've looked at that same tech tool as a substitution, as an augmentation, and now as a modification. Let's see if we can do that with redefinition as well. Let's go. Redefinition. This is where technology allows for brand new learning experiences. This is when we are doing things with technology that we could never do without the tech tool, right? This is all the way at the top of the Samoan Model. So let's say, let me think here. Let's say we're going to use our digital display, and we've decided that we're going to use Nearpod, and it's going to have the interactivity with the small screens, and the students are interacting with their with the presentation. And then we decide that we're going to use Google Meet to link up with a senator. Right, we're going to find the senator, then we're going to talk about how laws are made, and the senator is going to come on and he's going to share some things, and then the House of Representatives person, she's going to come on and she's going to say, hey, this is a bill that we collaborated on and we were able to get this accomplished. And we can do those things, connecting with those people on the other side of the globe, but using that same technology tool in a way that is now at a redefinition. Or maybe we take a virtual field trip on the interactive display, and we decide, you know what, here in Connecticut, we haven't been down to see our buddy Josh in West Virginia. Come on, let me click a few buttons here, and we're going to take a virtual field trip. And poof, there we go. And now we're down in West Virginia, and I can take you around, and I can show you some amazing things here in my neighborhood. That's a way that we can use that same technology tool at substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. What I want to emphasize to you is sometimes I have people say to me this. They'll say, hey, Josh, I like that thing that you were talking about with the Samoan Model. You know, our school is buying a bunch of Chromebooks, and I'm really wondering, you know, what is a Chromebook? Where does that fit on the Samoan model? What you need to remind yourself is it's not the tool, right? It's not the tool. It's how that tool is used in that given learning experience that defines where it fits on the Samoan model. We are not doing good on time. We have got to hustle. Let me show you some scenarios. I'm going to ask for your involvement on these. Okay, I'm going to bring up a poll. Let's look at what we have on the board. We're going to work together for this. Imagine this, half of our students are watching this captivating video, right? The other half of the students are working directly with the teacher to check for understanding on what they've learned. I want you to take a moment, let me fire up this poll for you, and tell me, where does that lesson fit in the Samoan model? Half of our kiddos are watching this captivating video. The other half of the kiddos, they're checking for understanding. Where does that fit in the Samoan model? I see a few votes coming in. I used to get so mad when my teachers would say, well, you know, there's no right or wrong answer. You just put in there what you think, and there's nothing right or wrong. I used to hate that so bad, but I will say that is the case with these scenarios. These are not intended to have right or wrong answers. These are just intended to spark conversation, because we don't really see this lesson, do we? There's a lot left up to our imagination, right? We have to kind of read between the lines. People are starting to vote. A lot of people are saying substitution, right? Although some people are saying modification too. That's good. Well, we really need to see the lesson, don't we? We really need to see what's going on in the lesson. But just from what we can see right now, I would think that if the class is just simply watching a video, and they're watching a video that maybe the teacher could teach herself, or, you know, maybe it's just presenting some direct instruction. You know, if that's all it is, then maybe it is substitution. But there might be some functional improvement there too. Maybe that video is presenting the content in a way that you couldn't present face-to-face, right? Maybe there's some animation, some music that goes with it, or maybe we could argue that there is some functional improvement just by having a small group instruction instead of whole group instruction, right? So now while the teacher's busy working with the small group, she can also have another group engaged in this video presentation, right? Let's do one more. Let me do this one. I like this one better. Let me end this poll. Here we go. Give me just a second. I'm going to relaunch the poll. Here we go. All right. Now, this is a trick question. I made this one on purpose to try to confuse you. Let's see how this works. Students in Mr. A's class practice active reading strategies. Man, I love that. They practice active reading strategies on their short story, and then Mr. A has intentionally removed the final page of the story. And now all the kids are so upset. They're saying, oh my gosh, what a cliffhanger. You've left me hanging. And then he challenges the students, well, we don't know the ending, so I guess we're going to work in pairs and create your own ending to the story using Microsoft Word. What do you think about that? What do you think about that one? I will tell you that this is a trick question. I'm seeing the responses come in. A lot of interpretation happening. Okay, so let me say this. Sometimes we confuse the S, substitution level, for being kind of entry-level basic instruction. And the R is this really powerful, you know, you have to have your national board certification. This is really great instruction, you know, and so I don't think that that's true about the Samoan model. And I don't think the Samoan model attempts to assess the quality of the learning experience whatsoever. I think more than anything, it's just assessing the value or the worth of the technology tool in that given learning experience. And I look at this one and I think, man, that is a cool lesson. I think whoever came up with this is onto something amazing, because the students are really going to be challenged, and they're going to have to do their character analysis, and they're going to have to really work hard to figure out how they want to end the story. I love this from a teaching and learning example. But if I look specifically at the technology that's being used, it looks pretty basic to me. It looks like we're just typing in Microsoft Word. So for those of you who have chosen, substitution or augmentation, I think you're probably onto something. Now, if you've chosen modification and redefinition, you are not wrong. You are definitely not wrong. There are certainly ways that we could use Microsoft Word, or maybe let's switch gears and we're going to go out of the classic Word maybe into Office 365, or use a Google Doc maybe, and we're going to share that and do a collaborative thing, and maybe we're going to animate the ending using, I saw these little things the other day, Make Do. It's got the cardboard construction. Somebody should Google that, Make Do, and you can build your build things out of cardboard. And I'm imagining that maybe they write their own ending to the story using Google Docs, and it's collaborative, and then they decide they're going to go into Make Do and build their cardboard construction, and then use their Chromebook to do like a stop motion animation and animate the ending to their story. And there's a lot that you could do with this to really ramp up not only the quality of instruction, but also the quality of the technology integration or the technology tools in that learning experience. Does that make sense? I hope that's coming together for you. We've saved just enough time at the end. I've got the very best thing I'm saving for last. I'm saving my home run for the last. I want to just pause for a second and kind of introduce you to the company that I serve. And if you, I feel like a lot of folks in Connecticut are customers of ours, and if you're already working with us, then that's great. If you're not, let me just tell you, we are hardware. We're an education company that kind of specializes in school technology hardware. Like we do, I think somebody told me we did $100 million in Chromebooks last year. So we sell a lot of Chromebooks and laptops and stuff like that. And in West Virginia, we serve the whole state of West Virginia, because we don't have a lot of repair people to fix them. When things break, we don't have time or money or resources to fix it, so Trinity does like the best warranty that I've ever seen. So we have the white glove service of people, they buy the warranty and all the technology from us, and those are the things that we do. But we are an education company, right? And we are the only company. The only reason I work for Trinity is because this is true. We define success the same way you guys define success. When you hear the chatter talking around the hallways of our company, it's rarely about, oh, look how many Chromebooks we're selling. It's not really about that. We are so motivated by what our kids are doing with the technology that they have. I love it to come into a sales meeting with somebody saying, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe what this customer of mine is doing. They've got this whole thing, and they're serving their community, and they're doing all this stuff. And we find so much motivation about that. We have just a different approach when it comes to selling stuff, that we find it really irresponsible. Something we are just not willing to do is drop off a bunch of technology hardware at the front door and say, good luck, you guys, let us know if you need anything. We bundle it with the right warranties. We bundle it with the right white glove experiences, so it's ready to roll when you get it out of the box. But we also have to empower our teachers and principals. We believe at our core that having a bunch of technology devices is not going to close achievement gaps. It's not going to do it. You can have all the technology in the world, and if you teach the same way you always have, and you do the things that we always have, we cannot expect for any kind of student achievement to increase or decrease, right? Technology tool is not going to do that. We have to empower our teachers and principals to make an instructional shift, to teach differently with the technology that they have. That's the reason that we bundle and we include professional learning and all of the stuff that we sell. I'm going to end with this one. It's my favorite part, you guys. So I'm high energy. I need to calm down. Don't I? I probably need to calm down. Here's my last thing. I love this one. I don't think that failure is our problem. I think that we've tried to do a lot of things in education, and in my experience, I've witnessed this quite a bit, where I've tried to do certain things that just didn't go well, right? And I identify those mistakes and those failures as being a problem, and now I'm starting to second guess that maybe failure is not the problem. There's a story that's told about this cleaning product called Formula 409. It's probably under the sink in your kitchen. I feel like it's in every household in America. And the story is that the Formula 409, it got its name from being the 409th version of that formula that it took to finally get that product to market. They tried 408 times before they got it right. Who would blame them for trying 386 times and then like saying, forget it, maybe I'm not good at making cleaning formula. I'm gonna walk away. This must not be my calling, right? I'm just gonna walk away from this. Who would blame them for doing that? I wouldn't. And I know so many times we've been in situations in schools where we've said, look, we have been trying to do this, it's just not working. And I'm going to present for your consideration that failure is not the problem. The problem is that when we give up too soon, we give up before we've accomplished our goal. We give up when we think that the mountain's too high and we were never going to find our way to the top of Mount Olympus because we quit. And I believe that I want to put that out there for your consideration as you are starting to integrate more technology into your schools. Just remember that when things are getting really hard and you keep finding one setback after another, get up, try one more time. Just keep going. Don't quit. 408 times, you got one more in you. Here's my contact information. Oh, come on, baby. There it is. Okay, so listen, you guys are buying stuff anyway. You might as well buy it from a company that measures success the same way you do. And if we can help you in any way, Matt down there on the bottom is on the call with us right now. He's a sales rep for our state, and he can help you get connected with any kinds of technology, hardware, or solutions that you need. I coordinate all of the professional development that we do for our company. I'm doing a lot. These bullets, I kind of spelled out some of the things that I'm doing a lot of training on, like distance learning strategies. I just feel like we need that right now. I feel like the stuff that I learned in undergrad is pretty helpful, but it doesn't necessarily help me articulate all the things that I need to be able to do in a distance learning setting. So we're doing a lot of training on that. Obviously, we talked about growth mindset a little bit. Virtual classroom management, I don't know about you guys, but we've got kids all over the place that, you got to tell Johnny, look, I realize you're home for virtual school today, Johnny, but you got to get dressed. You can't come to class with your shirt off, and tell mom to get dressed. I see her walking around in the background. So all of these kind of real practical things about just classroom management in a virtual setting, these things have to be taught. We do a truckload of training on learning management systems, specifically Schoology, Classroom, Google Classroom, Canvas, and Seesaw. I'm writing a dissertation right now on technology addiction. I wish I had time to talk about it, but I really don't. But I'm fascinated by the amount of screen time that so many of our learners have, and how that is impacting their mental health. And this concept is not an anti-technology. That's not where I'm going with my research. It's all about using the Samoan Model and a student engagement model to create very highly engaging learning experiences using technology that fight against some of those addictive qualities. And the last thing I'll just throw out there for you would be technology integration coaching for administrators, like where we would maybe do something like the session that I've just done with you on the Samoan Model, and teach administrators how to coach for that, right? How to give good quality feedback so that when they are observing virtual instruction or observing technology enhanced instruction, that they can give high quality feedback on those things. So my email is really simple. It's just Josh@Trinity3. And then Matt is on the call. It's Matt Novotny at Trinity3. Please reach out if we can do anything for you. Rosie, I'm not watching the Q&A. Do we have any questions? Anybody on the call want to jump in and maybe toss out a question for me? We have 9 minutes. You did pretty good on time, Rosie. I was concerned.
I know you were. And I've been watching. I have not, is it your birthday?
Who said that? It is my birthday.
Oh, well, happy birthday. I didn't know that.
Well, I can think of no better way to spend my 38th birthday than connecting. And you know what? I'm big on states. For some reason, I want to do all the states. I have never been to your neck of the woods, and I'm waiting on somebody to give me an invitation to come up there and hang with you guys and do something. So we would love to have you here. Let's hope that happens sometime in the near future. And if not, hopefully we can get you back as far as doing virtual presentations for us. I don't see questions, and maybe while I'm talking, because I do have like 2 questions that I'd like to ask, but if someone else has a question, they can type it into chat or they can raise their hand and we can certainly open up their mic and let them ask their question. But one of mine, and you just like really spiked my interest when you were talking about technology integration, coaching, and feedback, because I told you earlier before we started, I did not ever hear of the SAMR, is that how you say that model? So as an administrator, how might I use, just a real quick and dirty, how might I use that model to, when I go into a classroom, either as an observation tool, or which I'm thinking that you might be able to do that, and a coaching piece, and I could do that as a literacy coach as well. So how might I use that model in for coaching teachers? Yeah, I love the question, Rosie. It's really, I tell people it's really a 2-step thing. So step number 1 is to provide the SAMR training for your teachers to get them all speaking the same language, right? We want to get our folks in a room or do this virtually and go through the SAMR model and kind of cast a vision for this. These are the 4 levels: substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. These are the 4, establish the vernacular, right? So that everyone is, speaking the same language. The second piece is what gets observed gets done, right? So now if I can take this SAMR model and integrate it right into my observation template, and so it just becomes part of the feedback, right? So we come in and we say, today I witnessed, this was this teaching scenario that I saw, and to me, I feel like it was at the augmentation level, and here are some notes, and here's some feedback that you might use. Next year you're going to teach this lesson again. You might as well take this as an opportunity to nudge that along, and maybe let's see if we can land at modification next year, or maybe we'll go to redefinition. And then remind your teachers as you're giving coaching and giving feedback that we're using the SAMR model specifically to evaluate the value of the technology tool, not necessarily the value of the learning experience. And we have to work really hard to separate those 2 things, because a lot of teachers can get discouraged if you tell them that the activity was at the substitution level, and they think, well, gosh, maybe my lesson wasn't very good. You got to work against that, right? It has nothing to do with it. It's all about the value of the technology in that lesson. And the key is to not hang around at substitution and augmentation all the time. Now, this is going to dovetail into addiction, but a lot of times what the addictive thing is, we have technology that's used consistently as a consumption device. It becomes a pacifier for children. It becomes a way to just mind numb, and they just stare at their device and they can zone out. And you'll see a lot of that at substitution and augmentation, where if we work really hard and drive that toward modification, redefinition, the technology becomes more productive, and we can show children that this is not just a way to numb your mind and pacify you when you're bored. but this is a tool that we can use to change the world, right? And so doing more activities around the modification and the redefinition also helps us really fight against those kind of addictive behaviors as well.
Absolutely. So my other question has to do with, and I was really thrilled that you were in all 3 sessions earlier this morning, and so you got to hear some of the other speakers, but I'd like to hear from your perspective, because I know that you travel all over the country, you do a lot of different workshops for people. I'd like to hear if you had 2 or 3 distance learning strategies that you see as the most highly effective, like quality to help teachers teach effectively and really engage their students actively. What might you suggest as those 2 or 3 strategies?
Absolutely. So normally what I do is I pair up technology tool kind of strategies with pedagogical strategies, right? So on a tech tool, I might come in and I might do Pear Deck or Flipgrid or Edpuzzle or some kind of like really accessible kind of, it's not going to take a lot of work to get it up and running. So I'll pick a tech tool, and then I'll do something that's maybe a little bit unconventional on the pedagogical side. One of the things that I love to do is on virtual learning, sometimes it's really hard to get kids to speak up. I want them to unmute and participate. It's really hard to get them to come in and engage. And so I got a strategy that I borrowed from the mental health community. It's not necessarily defined as a teaching strategy, but it's a strategy that comes from the counseling community and mental health to help get people talking. And it's called mirroring. It's so easy, Rosie. It's so easy. So I say to a teacher that I met the other day, I said, "Hey, how was your summer?" And she said, it was good. I had a good summer. I had a baby. And then I mirror the last 3 to 4 words that I heard her say in the form of a question. So I said, "You had a baby this summer?" And she said, yeah, I had a baby this summer. My husband, we're so proud. And he's this little baby. He's 6 pounds. He was 12 pounds and 6 ounces. And he was 2 weeks, a week past due. I said, a week past, I'm mirroring, right? So I said, a week past due? And she said, yeah. And she just started gushing. She was just talking and talking. And I looked at that and I thought, when I first asked that student, what did you do this summer? I had one little phrase. I knew very little about that student. I had a baby this summer. But then I mirrored twice and I listened closely, and I went from knowing that I had a baby this summer to knowing so much more. And I got that student talking to me so much more by just mirroring. And I thought, that is so profound. I bet that strategy would just work wonders in a distance learning setting. So we do that. When we go out, we teach them how to do mirroring, and we teach them how to do another one called probing, and we show them a couple of tech tools, and we harmonize the pedagogical kind of strategies with the tech tools to create some kind of really meaningful learning experience. And someone was in the Q&A. Do you see that, Rosie? Someone's in the Q&A and asked a question. Do you partner with climate and culture specialists? Yes. Do we have time to answer that one?
Sure, absolutely. Go for it.
Okay. So short answer is yes. So our professional development specialists that serve our company, serve the children that we serve, we did not recruit professional development specialists by region. Instead, we recruited these people by expertise. And so we have people that specialized in elementary education, special education. Mine is in school improvement with climate cultures, data analysis, and instructional strategies for school improvement. And so our people are kind of spread out around the U.S., but really focused more on their area of expertise. So that's kind of the way that we do it. To answer that question in the chat is, we will engage if it's not my area of expertise, if it's not in my wheelhouse, then we'll pull from our talented pool of trainers to do that. I don't do a lot with elementary ed. I don't do a lot with special ed. I love those things, but I know enough UDL to be dangerous, right? Just enough to be dangerous. And when I get a school that wants to do a lot with accessibility and universal design for learning, that's when I tap into our resources that kind of specialize in those things. But all bundled in with the hardware purchase. So when you buy Chromebooks from us or Windows devices or whatever it is, we always make sure that you get a couple of days of PD in there too.
Excellent answer. And I just want to say, because I have had the opportunity to meet Matt and a lot of the people who work for Trinity 3 while I was at ISTE conferences over the last couple of years, and you have an awesome company and some very knowledgeable people who I'm sure if anyone that's listening wants to pick up the phone or email to you guys, you can get a lot of things answered, plus just a great company and a lot of help to school districts, especially I know with warranties and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough, Josh, for sharing your expertise with us today. Likewise, we want to express our deepest gratitude and appreciation to Trinity 3 for supporting this session at the conference and allowing you to be with us today. And if anyone's not familiar with Trinity 3, I suggest that you check them out on the website, trinity3.com, and also like I said, and Josh said, contact him and contact Matt, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you. So thank you again, Josh, and happy birthday. I'd sing to you, but you really don't want to hear me sing. So I just want to say to everyone else that's listening, I'd like to thank you for joining us and remind you that this session was recorded and will be posted on the CAS website so that you can view it again and or share it with your faculty, staff, colleagues, and others. We have one more session today as part of our CAS virtual conference. Our final session starts at 3 p.m. It's with our 3 Connecticut 2020 Principals of the Year. They'll be sharing their perspectives on access, instruction, and equity. So you must register to attend, and it's not too late, and someone will drop that the web link back in, and or you can go to the CAS website and get it there. Again, thanks to everyone who joined us. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Matt, if you're listening. And I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Happy birthday.
Thank you.